Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Trump-Xi meet in South Korea's Busan. Xi says US and China should be partners and friends. Trump says trade deal could be signed today. Donald Trump orders Pentagon to immediately start testing US nuclear weapons because of other countries' similar programs. WHO condemns reported horrific mass killing in Sudan hospital. Hurricane Melissa leaves a trail of death and destruction in the Caribbean, at least 30 killed. US Federal Reserve cuts interest rates by a quarter percentage point, the lowest level in 3 years. And in Women's Cricket World Cup semi-final showdown, India to take up reigning champions Australia in Navi Mumbai. All right, so the high-stakes meeting of US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping began a short while back in Busan, the first face-to-face encounter since 2019. And you can see in the visuals, they are shaking hands. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. After shaking hands for news cameras, Trump and Xi kicked off their bilateral meeting. In brief remarks before they entered the meeting place, Trump said he expects a very successful meeting with Xi Jinping, adding that both sides have always had a good relationship. Xi, in response, said it was great to see Donald Trump. Take a listen. All right, the two leaders last met in person was in 2019 during the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan. So, big high-stakes meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. They are meeting in South Korea's Busan. And Xi Jinping says US and China should be partners and friends. And Trump says that trade deal could be signed today. So, big meeting taking place between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. It began a short while back in Busan and the first face-to-face encounter since 2019. And after shaking hands for the cameras, Trump and Xi kicked off their bilateral meeting. In brief remarks before they entered the meeting place, Trump said he expects a very successful meeting, with Xi adding that both sides have always had a good relationship. And Xi Jinping, in response, said it was great to see Donald Trump. And the two leaders last met in person was in 2019 during the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan. And let's listen in to what both the leaders said.
It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time, and it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because It's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I am ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries. Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace, and you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China has been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes, and we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues. The world today is confronted with many tough problems. China and the US can jointly shoulder our responsibility as major countries and work together to accomplish more great and concrete things for the good of our 2 countries and the whole world.
All right, so high-stakes meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping is underway. And Xi Jinping has said that we do not always see eye to eye to each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have friction now and again. For more on this, DD India's Ravi Dhiman joins us on the phone line. Ravi, Trump has said China and the US should be partners and friends. And Xi Jinping said that given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye, and it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have friction now and again. Tell us, what is the latest that you are picking up as the high-stakes meeting is underway in Busan?
Well, Abhishek, if you see the language both the leaders have used for addressing each other and starting the conversation, the language is very candid, more so by Xi. He's been very candid and straightforward in telling President Trump that there have been frictions, and it's normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions, and that's a natural instinct of the leaders. And he's also been candid by saying that we do not always see eye to eye with each other, and that's perfectly normal. And at the same time, given these circumstances, she has sought to steer the course for the future for these 2 big economies, saying that they should stay the right course. And he has, linked China's development with the vision of Trump for making America, the MAGA vision, making America great again, in the sense that he's also, sought to take care of the feelings of Trump, take care of his domestic constituency, in mentioning the vision of making America great again in his opening remarks. And that tells you a lot about, the way these two leaders want to steer this meeting. They want to have tangible results at the end of the meeting. They really want to have a trade deal at the end of the meeting, and both have given enough, signals that they will be ready. They've already, decided to have something tangible coming out of this meeting. She also told Trump that basic consensus of the trade deal have been reached, as was evident in the past few days when the officials of both the countries, slogged it out to have basic consensus for these two. That eventually paved way for today's meeting, and he's also. She has also touched upon some issues which are really very dear to President Trump, like his, yearning for being, recognized that he is working towards peace and peace in various parts of the world. She also mentioned the Gaza peace accord, which Trump helped broker between Israel and Hamas. So she has been more forthcoming in this opening remarks. As far as Trump's remarks are concerned, we can see that he just heaped praises on Xi and his leadership, and he's very optimistic about the meeting and its outcome. So it remains to be seen what really the outcome of the meeting will be. But going by the opening remarks, it seems that the two leaders have already made up their mind, and barring some minor hiccups, something tangible and positive for both the economies might come out from the meeting.
All right, Ravi, thank you for the time being. But yes, we'll keep taking updates from you. Akshay Dongre, DD India correspondent, is also with us, and we are also joined by Professor Anshu Joshi. Professor Joshi, appreciate you giving us your precious time. Good morning, Akshay. Akshay, a high-stakes meeting between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. It is underway. And major issue remains export controls on rare earths announced by Beijing. And we were talking about the language also. I mean, we just heard the statements that they made. What are the other key issues expected to come up in Busan today, Akshay?
Well, it would be quite difficult to predict the issues that are going to come up. However, Abhishek, there are certain things that are there, certain realities of ties between US and China in this present world. Both are the top economies. Both are great militaries. Both want dominance in their respective regions. But China is also looking at expanding its influence around the world. US, its influence is receding, and many of it is because of China. So that remains a challenge, and that remains a friction point as well. But looking at the language as well, Abhishek, you can see the kind of languages that have been used by the two leaders. And while the language has been quite candid, as Ravi has been mentioning, and quite frankly, he has spoken about the issues and the challenges as well between the two countries. The language is exactly the opposite of Donald Trump, where he keeps on praising, heaping praises on the leaders. That is his way of communication, perhaps, but doesn't get much tangible outcomes. Ignoring the problems and just keeping on, heaping praises on the leaders, expecting a trade deal to just happen. Similar thing he has been trying with other leaders as well. And when it comes to China, it does realize that the stakes are, quite high as far as these tariffs are concerned, rare earth minerals, because China is the only economy that is standing up to the US, and US does realize this. One of the issue that will remain a friction point is obviously Taiwan, because before leaving for South Korea, when Trump was asked, what about Taiwan? His response was that what about it? Taiwan is Taiwan, which means that the status quo remains as far as the US position is concerned on Taiwan. That is going to be one of the major friction points. Then while, the meeting went well, the two leaders met. It was the bilateral meeting. It was always expected to go well. But what remains to be seen is that how the talks that are taking place in Busan are going to be implemented into action. One is tariffs. That is a key point. Second is rare earth minerals. When all of the meeting, when the meeting and then the talks are getting implemented on the ground, it will be the biggest challenge to see how the critical issues that still remain between the two top economies, how will they solve that? And given the nature of Donald Trump and the kind of usage of tariffs he has been doing in quite an irrational manner. How is China going to respond? And after meeting in Busan, whether that will die down or that will continue. At every minor inconvenience, Donald Trump raising tariffs and announcing massive, impractical tariffs on other countries. It all remains to be seen, but the meeting went well. It is good news for the global economy if the two top economies get along well and they can do business together. But beyond the optics, it is quite a difficult thing to be implemented on the ground, given the fact that the stakes are equally high for both the countries, and there is only one global economy to be captured that both the countries want their hegemony or rather monopoly to remain in.
Yes, Akshay, stay with us. We'll come back to you. But let's talk about what has happened so far. The meeting is underway and Trump and Xi Jinping, they greeted each other and they shook hands. Trump said she was a very tough negotiator and that's not good. And in the comment to reporters in Busan before the meeting got underway, the US president also said that we have a great relationship, quote unquote, and asked if he planned to sign a trade deal. Trump said could be, and the Chinese president didn't make any comments. But yes, when they started the meeting, Chinese president in fact said that given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye, and it is normal for two leading economies of the world to have friction now and again. And Donald Trump also went on to say that very tough negotiator Xi Jinping is, and that's not good. Professor Joshi, first of all, we'll talk about how crucial is this meeting, and we'll talk about the timing also. But first of all, what do you make of the language of both the leaders here when they are meeting in Busan?
Well, we all know that both Xi Jinping and Trump are known for their own styles while negotiating with different countries. And while we know that, as Trump also has stated, that Xi is a very tough negotiator, and Xi actually carries volumes in whatever he says in a very limited period of time, or like through very limited content. On the other hand, Trump is known for his own style and the way he just speaks his heart out. We know that what kind of statements he has been making for other countries and leaders as well, including Xi. However, we have seen that amid this continuous frictious phase between the two nations, wherein China curbed much needed critical minerals for the United States of America, which it sends to United States of America, and in then retaliation, we saw that how Trump imposed additional 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, and Trump also alleged China of smuggling this fentanyl into the US through Venezuela. So there were a lot of critical issues. Amid all that, Trump's meeting with Xi now can be seen as like a ray of hope, as in at the end of the day, the global economy might suffer heavily if at all this friction continues, Abhishek. And that is why this meeting is very important, and the timing of this meeting is also very significant. So the leaders are expected to discuss a lot of critical issues ranging from the tariffs imposed by United States of America on China, the critical minerals that China has stopped or curbed what it used to send to United States of America. And on the other hand, US also expects China to continue buying soya bean from United States of America. Then there is an issue related to Taiwan also, though we know that officially United States of America follows one China policy, but on the other hand, on grounds, we have seen that how it supports Taiwan. So she knows that Trump is in some, I would not use the word trouble, but in like tough times, wherein we know that because of imposing hefty tariffs on other countries like India, how the American companies are struggling at the moment to continue with their economic growth, Abhishek. So there
Scott
is a challenge
has
for
also
Trump.
spoken about it. Professor, will come back to you. But this is the latest that Chinese talks also eased from 10-year peak. But Akshay, also briefly tell us what does Trump-Xi meet mean for India?
Well, for India, obviously, India is quite keenly and actively monitoring the statements that are coming out, especially the way China is dealing with the US and the way languages are changing, with the way issues are coming up. India is also a major economy in the world. US has been quite keen on doing business with India as well. And, it's like China, it has been, US has been unilaterally imposing a different kind of tariffs on for different reasons, as it claims on the Indian economy as well. So the way this entire meeting is taking place will also have a ramification on the global economy. So from that point of view, India is obviously monitoring the meeting and how the issue of tariffs and the issue of other bilateral issues are getting resolved in Busan, if at all they are. And if they don't get, so we know, what can go wrong and what. So it can be a learning curve for India as well. Seeing this meeting taking place, in China is an immediate neighbor. We're having, we have a good relation with the US and with China as well. The ties are improving. It can be a major point major point for the global economy, given the fact that India, China, and US, if they can get along. And if they can make a sort of a economic golden triangle, it can be great for all the economies of the world, but also for the global trade, global economy in general. So there are several other issues, but on the issues of Taiwan, India is monitoring this meeting. On the issue of tariffs, on the issue of rare earth minerals, on the issue of manufacturing, trade, and other kind of friction points that are there. While it does not have a direct ramification for India, but the kind of meeting is taking place, and the things that are at stake, the ramifications are as high as they can for the entire world.
All right, Akshay, thank you for the timing. But yes, we'll keep taking updates from you. Professor Joshi, same reaction from you also. From India's standpoint, how significant you think this meeting is between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping?
Abhishek, India at the moment is keeping a close watch and monitoring the whole meeting. And from India's perspective, we have seen in past couple of months that how India has realigned with these countries according to its national priorities. And that is what we have clarified time and again. Our Honorable Prime Minister and our External Affairs Minister keep stating that India takes all the decisions and aligns and realigns with countries depending on its national interests and the situation around. So India also hopes that there should be positive outcomes of this meeting, as in to stabilize what is happening in global politics at the moment. The market is also watching this meeting very closely because a lot of sentiments from the market and economy are also involved here, touching upon Indian market also, Indian economy also. And at the same time, it would be good to see the relationship stabilizing between the countries, impacting economy at the global level and ensuring global peace and security also. And this will also stabilize global supply chains if positive outcomes come, Abhishek. So let's see what comes out of the bag first and foremost.
And Professor Joshi, also, I mean, since we are talking about India also, let's talk about other countries also. Leaders across the globe would also be watching it very keenly. How significant, we were talking about this earlier also, how significant you think is the timing of this meeting between both of them?
Abhishek, as we can see that Russia-Ukraine war is still on, it could not be stopped. On the other hand, we have seen that the first phase of ceasefire is very much on between Israel and Hamas, though there are question marks on the second phase. But let's at least welcome this first phase of ceasefire. And that's where we have seen that how all these leaders, including Xi, have congratulated Trump for mediating to announce this ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. On the other hand, we also keep seeing issues emerging in Indo-Pacific region, and economically we know that countries including China and United States of America are going through a tough phase on their domestic front. So we do see a turmoil across the globe. And amid this entire situation, the timing of this meeting on the sidelines of this Asia Pacific Economic Summit, which works on three important economic pillars or objectives, it's good to see that this meeting is happening, and to stabilize, as I said, the global supply chains, and to resolve issues related to tariff and the exports between India and United States of America and China on this critical minerals, on the issue of fentanyl, wherein countries of Latin America are also involved, like Venezuela and Mexico. So there is an issue of narco-terrorism associated here, Abhishek, and TikTok operations in the United States of America, and of course issues related to Taiwan. So issues are also critical. Timing is also important, and what is happening around us is also very important at the moment, Abhishek.
Also, Professor Joshi, I mean, let's talk about the stocks. I mean, Chinese stocks is from 10-year peak. Asian stocks also are fluctuating up and down. What are markets and business groups watching most closely as this meeting takes place?
Abhishek, that's a very good question, and the markets are reacting positively at the moment, as I could see from different numbers, although I am not an economist, but from various news reports we can make out that markets are reacting positively across the world to this meeting, and the analysts do see that even if a modest agreement comes out of this meeting, it could stabilize the economic issues and economic instability. It could also stabilize and make global supply chains better, and of course the commodity prices, which are shaken at the moment because of this additional 100% tariffs that have been imposed on China. And but at the same time, the experts, the economists, what I have read, they also have kind of cautioned against making out too much of conclusions or like with optimism out of this meeting. So unless and until the tangible outcomes come out, unless and until we see the finalized final document of what were the outcomes of this meeting, we can't say much. We can only speculate. But however, short-term stabilization is a phrase with which I can conclude my address or my thoughts, which can be seen after this meeting.
Professor Joshi, if we talk about the holistic view, if we talk about the larger view, how do today's discussions fit into the larger context of global trade and supply chains?
Abhishek, we have seen that post-COVID-19, the supply chains disrupted. And after that, if COVID-19 was not enough, Russia-Ukraine war started. And if Russia-Ukraine war was not enough, we saw another conflictual situation in West Asian region, wherein there are different choke points also, and which are like critical for global supplies point of view, especially related to oil and gas products. We saw this entire Israel-Hamas issue cropping up, and other countries also slowly started getting involved into the whole situation. So that is why, because of this present turmoil in global politics and in different parts of the world, definitely there is a disruption in supply chains, and this has also impacted commodity prices in different countries. This has also resulted in inflation and other economic issues for different countries of different parts of the world. So this meeting, if at all, results in with positive outcomes, at least it will be kind of it will be good to see that at least one, on one turf, one tiff has been resolved between China and United States of America, though for like a very short period of time, because we have seen that when we talk about US-China relations, it's like a switch. So it's on and off time and again. So at the moment, after observing a whole phase of friction between the two nations, wherein both the leaders also reacted offensively for each other, and there were like negative statements for each other, now we see that both Trump and Xi are praising each other. So let's see what comes out of this meeting. Only then we will be able to, take a moment to analyze that what are the declarations and tangible outcomes particularly, and then we can analyze the whole situation.
Absolutely. The meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping is still underway. We're calling it a high-stakes meeting. What's in store? We'll talk about it and we'll keep getting you updates on this. Professor Joshi, thank you for your insights. Thank you for the time being. All right, we are slipping into a very short break. On the other side, more stories. Keep watching DD India Newshour.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of our top stories. Trump-Xi meet in South Korea's Busan. Xi says US and China should be partners and friends. Trump says trade deal could be signed today. Donald Trump orders Pentagon to immediately start testing US nuclear weapons because of other countries' similar programs. WHO condemns reported horrific mass killing in Sudan hospital. Hurricane Melissa leaves a trail of death and destruction in the Caribbean, at least 30 killed. US Federal Reserve cuts interest rates by a 1/4 percentage point, the lowest level in 3 years. And in Women's Cricket World Cup semi-final showdown, India to take on reigning champions Australia in Navi Mumbai. Donald Trump has ordered the US Department of War to start testing America's nuclear weapons. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote, "The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished, including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term in office. Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but had no choice. Russia is second and China is a distant third, but will be even within 5 years. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately," unquote. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday announced that Russia had successfully tested its Poseidon nuclear power super torpedo. The test was met with international condemnation, including from Trump, who called it inappropriate as he is pushing the Kremlin to come to the table and negotiate a deal to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And Israel said on Wednesday it remains committed to the US-backed ceasefire in Gaza despite carrying out another airstrike in the north of Gaza where it said weapons had been stored. The killing of an Israeli soldier in Gaza on Tuesday has triggered the worst escalation there since the ceasefire brokered by US President Donald Trump came into effect on October 10 after 2 years of conflict triggered by deadly Hamas-led attacks on Israel. Israel says the soldier was killed in an attack by gunmen on territory within the Yellow Line where its troops withdrew under the truce. Hamas has rejected the accusation. Israel described Wednesday's attack as a targeted strike near Beit Lahia in the north of the Strip. It named 24 targets, including one it described as a Hamas commander who took part in an attack on a kibbutz during October 7, 2023. The latest flare-up has underscored the stumbling blocks to a lasting peace. Key questions of Hamas disarming, further Israeli troop pullbacks and future governance of Gaza remain unresolved. An Israeli Prime Minister visited a military facility in southern Israel on Wednesday, where U.S. troops are monitoring the truce. Benjamin Netanyahu said it remains committed to the U.S.-backed ceasefire in Gaza, in which disarming of Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza is ultimately achieved.
We want to ensure that the goal President Trump and we agreed on of disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza is ultimately achieved, and we are working on this in stages, together with other components of the plan. I believe that with cooperation, we have already done things that have amazed the world, both in Iran and in the release of our hostages alive, which no one believed we would succeed in.
Moving on, residents rode motorcycles to Rio de Janeiro's government palace demanding justice after the death toll rose to at least 119 on a police operation that became the deadliest in Brazil's history. Protesters demanded accountability for what they called a massacre by security forces. Protesters accused authorities of excessive use of force and called for justice for the victims of the deadly raid. The fierce clashes erupted when about 2,500 heavily armed officers took part in the operation targeting Brazil's main drug trafficking gang in northern Rio. The Tuesday operation killed at least 119 people, including 4 officers. Rio governor called it a retaliation act and claimed it wasn't intentional.
In yesterday's battle, the police emerged victorious. I repeat, our 4 victims were the 4 police officers killed. The rest were criminals. It wasn't our intention to kill anyone. We wanted to arrest them all alive. But it was retaliation. It was a consequence of the retaliation they carried out and the disproportionate use of force by those criminals.
And Dutch voters seem to have rejected far-right leader Geert Wilders, favouring the centrist D66 party, whose lead in exit polls sparked celebrations in The Hague on Wednesday. The centrist D66 party, led by Rob Jetten, was projected to win 27 seats out of 150 in Parliament, ahead of Wilders and his far-right PVV Freedom Party with 25 seats. It confirmed the result would put 38-year-old Jetten in pole position to become the country's youngest and first openly gay Prime Minister, subject to coalition talks. D66 supporters exploded with joy at their election party in Leiden, waving Dutch and European flags. Exit polls in the Netherlands have a margin of error of up to 3 seats. The popularity of Jetten surged in the past month as he campaigned on a promise to resolve a housing shortage, invest in education and tackle immigration concerns. The World Health Organization said on Wednesday it was appalled by reports that more than 460 patients and their companions were shot dead at the last partially functional hospital in Sudan's Al-Fasher. WHO Director General said prior to this latest attack, WHO has verified 25 attacks on healthcare in Sudan, with at least 1,204 deaths and over 400 injuries of health workers and patients since the start of the conflict. The capture of Al-Fasher on Sunday after an 18-month siege has solidified the paramilitary rapid support forces' control over Darfur, sparking fears of ethnically motivated violence reminiscent of the western region's darkest days. And death toll from Hurricane Melissa has continued to rise as the storm left a trail of destruction across the Caribbean. At least 25 people have died in Haiti after Melissa's rains swelled river banks. In Jamaica, authorities confirmed 4 bodies had been recovered on Wednesday. Melissa slammed into Jamaica as a record-breaking and destructive Category 5 storm before being downgraded to a Category 3 when it hit Cuba. Hurricane Melissa was downgraded to a Category 1 storm late on Wednesday with maximum wind speeds of 90 miles per hour before it hits the southeast or central Bahamas. A disaster assistance response team personnel from across the U.S. were on their way to Jamaica, the Bahamas and the Dominican Republic, where they will also attend to issues in neighboring Haiti. Jamaican officials said buildings on the island had suffered structural damage and power outages continued to be widespread. Airports were set to reopen on Thursday for emergency relief flights after damage that was said to be superficial. And at least 241 communities remain isolated and without communications following the storm's passage across Santiago province, affecting as many as 140,000 residents. Across eastern Cuba, authorities evacuated around 735,000 people as the storm approached. Most remained in emergency centers. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel said the country had suffered extensive damage and warned residents against letting down their guard as rains continued to lash the region. Updates from India now. First from Bihar, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold election rallies in Muzaffarpur and Chhapra today in the run-up to the assembly elections. Taking to social media, PM exuded confidence that the voters will ensure a grand victory of the BJP NDA. He said, and I quote him here, "I'm confident that in the assembly elections, my brothers and sisters of the state will once again herald a grand victory," unquote. PM Modi kicked off the NDA campaign for the upcoming Bihar assembly elections by addressing rallies in Samastipur and Begusarai on October 24th. The assembly elections will be held in two phases on November 6 and November 11. The results will be declared on November 14. Later in the day, Prime Minister Modi will visit Gujarat, where he will travel to Ekta Nagar, Kevadia. He will flag off e-buses there and later inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of various infrastructural and development projects. These projects aim to enhance the tourist experience, improve accessibility and support sustainability initiatives in the area. With a total investment of over 1,140 crore, the projects reflect the government's vision of promoting ecotourism, green mobility, smart infrastructure and tribal development in the region surrounding the world's tallest statue. During the program, Prime Minister will also release a special commemorative coin of Rs 150 denomination and stamp marking the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel. Now, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar highlighted that an early conclusion of the proposed India-European Union Free Trade Agreement could play a crucial role in stabilizing the global economy and strengthening democratic forces. Dr. Jaishankar made the remarks after meeting a high-level trade delegation from 27-member European Union, which is currently visiting India to advance discussions on finalizing the long-pending FTA. The minister remarks came as the two sides look to wrap up negotiations for the mega trade pact. In September, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed their commitment to finalize the trade deal by December. The European Union is India's biggest trade partner, with bilateral trade in goods recording $135 billion in financial year 2023-24. The FTA is expected to significantly enhance the two-way trade ties. India and the EU concluded the 14th round of FTA negotiations in Brussels on October 10th. Now, a multi-party Indian parliamentarian delegation is currently in New York, representing the country's stance at the United Nations General Assembly on various issues. BJP MP Daggubati Purandeshwari delivered India's national statement at UNGA plenary on the report of the International Atomic Energy Agency on Wednesday. She underscored India's strong support for the agency's pivotal role in facilitating the peaceful, safe and secure applications of nuclear science and technology. She also highlighted India's progress in nuclear power and research, including indigenous CAR-T cell therapy, as improving access to affordable cancer treatment.
As a responsible nuclear power with advanced technology, India remains committed to expand peaceful applications of nuclear technology, both in power and non-power sector, while ensuring the security of nuclear and radiological materials. India has a robust nuclear safety culture and an impeccable safety record. India will continue to support the agency in its efforts to provide a robust, sustainable and visible global nuclear safety and security framework.
And symphony of Indo-German friendship echoed at the historic India Gate in Delhi on Wednesday evening. In a spectacular show, 51 musicians from the Mountain Band of the German Armed Forces, along with 48 from the Indian Air Force, enthralled the audience with military pride and discipline. The show ended with Sare Jahan Se Acha. And today marks the birth anniversary of Dr. Homi Jehangir Bhabha, the visionary physicist who laid the foundations of India's nuclear program. Often called the father of Indian nuclear science, his legacy continues to power the nation's scientific ambitions. DD India's Akshay Dongre tells us more.
Born on October 30, 1909, in Bombay, Homi Jehangir Bhabha was destined to shape India's scientific destiny. Educated at Cambridge, Bhabha's brilliance shone early. His pioneering work on cosmic rays earned him global recognition. At the outbreak of World War II, Bhabha returned to India, and soon after, his vision took form. In 1945, he founded the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, the cradle of India's atomic energy program. Just 3 years later, India's tryst with nuclear power began with the Atomic Energy Commission, chaired by Bhabha himself. His dream to harness atomic energy for peaceful purposes became the cornerstone of India's scientific progress. Under his leadership, India built its first nuclear reactor, Apsara, in 1956, placing the country among the world's atomic pioneers. But his life was tragically cut short in 1966 in an air crash near Mont Blanc. Yet his legacy lives on in the Bhabha Atomic Research Centre, in India's space and nuclear missions, and in every young scientist he continues to inspire. And today, as India strides into an era of advanced technology and clean energy, Dr. Homi Bhabha's vision remains a guiding light, reminding us that science in the service of humanity is the truest form of nation building. New Delhi, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
All right, business updates now. The U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday announced its second quarter point rate cut in a row to bolster the flagging labour market in a move that highlighted the growing division in its ranks. Policymakers voted 10-2 in favour of lowering the bank's key lending rate to between 3.75% and 4%. Opposed to the action were Fed Governor Stephen Miran, who backed a bigger half-point cut, and Kansas City Fed President Jeff Schmidt, who preferred no change to the target range for the federal funds rate at this meeting. The decision to cut rates boosts the U.S. economy at a time when businesses are still digesting the effects of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs and buys policymakers some more time as they wait for the end of the government shutdown.
Higher tariffs are pushing up prices in some categories of goods, resulting in higher overall inflation. A reasonable base case is that the effects on inflation will be relatively short-lived, a one-time shift in the price level. But it is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent, and that is a risk to be assessed and managed. In the committee's discussions at this meeting, there were strongly differing views about how to proceed in December. A further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is not a foregone conclusion. Far from it. Policy is not on a preset course.
And Asian stocks fluctuated between gains and losses early on Thursday after the Federal Reserve cut interest rate and as investors waited to see if US and Chinese leaders meeting. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was last trading flat, while US S&P 500 futures edged 0.1% higher after stocks on Wall Street posted a slim loss to snap a 4-day winning streak. The Nikkei opened 0.1% lower ahead of a decision from the Bank of Japan later today. And Boeing reported a third quarter loss of $5.4 billion as massive added cost from the delayed certification of its 777X aircraft weighed down its results. The aviation giant scored a 30% jump in revenues to $23.3 billion following much higher commercial plane deliveries compared with a year ago level. But the performance was marred by a one-time charge of $4.9 billion on the repeatedly delayed 777X program, which has faced a prolonged certification process with US authorities. Boeing had hoped to begin the next phase of certification flights this year, but the company has pushed those back until 2027 to complete needed preparatory analysis. All right, sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. It's a blockbuster semi-final at Navi Mumbai's D.Y. Patil Stadium as India face defending champions Australia in the Women's World Cup 2025. India chased their maiden World Cup title, while seven-time champions Australia aim to extend their dominance. India suffer a setback with opener Pratika Rawal ruled out and Shefali Verma replaces her. Overall, in women's ODIs, India and Australia have faced each other 60 times, with Australia winning 49 and India winning just 11. A thrilling battle awaits as India look to end Australia's unbeaten World Cup streak since 2017. All right, so big match between India and Australia in the semi-finals of Women's World Cup today. The match will be played at Navi Mumbai. So India likely to make changes in the playing 11 today. It might be the first change. Shefali Verma has been drafted in the squad because of Pratika Rawal. She has been injured and she is not part of the India squad now. So it will be interesting to see whether Shefali Verma plays today, and if she plays today, she'll definitely open the innings. But yes, a lot of hopes from Smriti Mandhana and Harmanpreet Kaur. Harmanpreet Kaur is the captain of the Indian side, and in 2017 she was the one who scored 171 against the same team Australia in 2017. So a lot will depend on how India performs. A lot will depend on Harmanpreet Kaur and of course Smriti Mandhana. India has been bowling well and Renuka Thakur has been leading India's attack, but yes, India cannot take Australia lightly. It's a high stakes encounter and India had gone on to score over 300, in fact 330 against Australia in the league stage, but Australia chased down the huge total, mammoth total against India. So India need to be careful, and toss will also be very crucial today. Remember, the match will be played at Navi Mumbai, so dew could also be a big factor in the semi-final clash. All right, so Australia are also unbeaten in the World Cup since 2017, and if you talk about the head-to-head record, also Australia are way ahead. India have only managed to win 11 games against the big team Australia, and all eyes will be on Elisa Healy also, the Australian captain. She didn't play in the last two games, but she has been declared fit. That's what we are hearing. She practiced also. She spent a significant time in the nets also yesterday. So if she plays today, so a lot more danger for India too. But yes, big game between India and Australia in the semi-finals. First semi-final was played between South Africa and England. South Africa managed to win that game. So South Africa are already through to the finals. Whoever wins this game today between India and Australia will be in the finals and they'll face South Africa. So Suchitra Bharwaj, DD India's correspondent, is with us. She's joining us live from Mumbai. Hi Suchitra, a big encounter today between India and Australia, and we all know that Australia are ahead in head-to-head. They have dominated in the past, but India should take the cue from their 2017 encounter when Harmanpreet Kaur scored 171 not out. Tell us how's the atmosphere there in Navi Mumbai ahead of the big game.
Yes, good morning, Abhishek. Yes, there's a lot of excitement for this match, and this is not any match. This is the semi-final of a World Cup, and we are facing Australia, the defending champions and the 7 times world champions. The host meeting the defending champion. You know, the marketing guys, the organizer could not have asked for more. So there's a lot of excitement for this match. And yes, you were talking about the 2017 World Cup semi-final. So we can always take inspiration from that match. And also in this very stadium, D.Y. Patil Stadium, India defeated Australia in a T20 match in super overs. So that victory was also a milestone for Indian women's cricket, because it's not that easy to defeat Australia in a super over. So, you know, taking it to that last moment, and South Africa just made it to the finals, and they defeated England. England was looking really strong, and if we look at South Africa's journey from 69 all out to making it to the finals, it's been really inspiring. And South Africa lost to England in the past 2 semi-finals. So if South Africa can defeat England and make it to the finals, then India can take the inspiration, because they have done it once. They have defeated Australia in the semi-finals of World Cup. So yes, we can do it once again and make it to the final, and we are eyeing the main prize. We have never won the World Cup, and we want to win the World Cup. You know, we still have the memories of 2011 World Cup fresh in our minds, and it's a different feeling altogether winning your home World Cup. So this Indian women's cricket team is trying to go where no previous Indian women's cricket team has gone, winning the Women's World Cup for the first time.
Also, Suchitra, very quickly, any final confirmation on Alyssa Healy's fitness?
No, Abhishek, they are keeping their cards very close to their chest, and you know, Alyssa Healy is such an important player that even if they are not playing her today, they will not make it public anytime soon, because it really affects the morale of the Australian team, and it will really boost the morale of the other camp. So there are chances, because yesterday she was not there in the practice session. Day before yesterday, she was seen in the practice session, but yesterday she was not there in the practice session. And Australia has always been known for their professionalism. So they will not risk any player just for the sake of the semi-final. So there are still some chances that Alyssa Healy may not play, but yes, they have not made any confirmation about her playing in this match or not playing in this match.
All right, big match today between India and Australia, semi-final game, big encounter. South Africa are already through, and the match will be played at 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your input, Suchitra. And Rajasthan's Pushkar Mela comes alive with horses, camels and cows worth crores. The renowned annual livestock fair and cultural event is providing free veterinary care, educating animal owners and improving conditions for the tens of thousands of working animals at the fair. The focus this time is on equine and camel welfare drive. All right, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.